Hello everyone, I'm Bodhi Wetna. Welcome to my salon. Today we're going to be talking about idioms. And no, idioms aren't poems written by idiots. According to the Cambridge English Dictionary, idioms are a group of words that mean something completely different than their original definition. Let's break the ice. No, I'm not talking about the board game Don't Break the Ice. Man, I had a lot of fun doing that in my childhood. Today I'm going to be talking about the idiom. It means to end conflict and begin friendship. In the 1580s, people didn't have bridges to cross over lakes and rivers, they had ferries. But in the winter, those lakes and rivers would freeze over, and they would have to send in ships to break the ice so people could cross. And that was just one of the idioms we're going to be discussing the meanings and origins of today on Language Lounge. To butter someone up means to praise them excessively, and in ancient India, people literally threw balls of butter at statues of the gods. This isn't at all like what happens at the state fair where we carve images of princesses in butter, because when you're buttering someone up, you're literally comparing them to a god. The actions of a single person can create an idiom. During the Battle of Copenhagen in 1801, Sir Hyde Parker, Admiral of the British Navy, was signifying to his counterpart, Admiral Horatio Nelson, to stop his attack on Dutch ships. However, Admiral Nelson put his telescope up to his blind eye, said, "I don't see any signal," and kept attacking, eventually winning the battle. So when we say to turn a blind eye, we mean to deliberately ignore. But that isn't the only idiom that came from war. The whole 9 yards has nothing to do with the 2000s movie or Bruce Willis, but it does mean to put in maximum effort. Because in World War II, fighter pilots had 9 yards of ammunition. And so the pilots that used the whole 9 yards of their ammunition were seen as putting in the most effort in battle. Pulling your leg can be dated to street thieves in the early 18th and 19th century. One, called the tripper-upper, would use a rope or a cane to make someone fall, while his accomplice would rob them during the commotion. So next time you're lying and pulling someone's leg, you're effectively making someone look like a fool, like they've just fallen flat on their face. Letting the cat out of the bag is another crime-based idiom. In the early 16th century, shady pig merchants would take the piglets they were selling by the bag and occasionally substitute them with cats. When customers brought the bags home and a cat jumped out, they realized they'd been cheated. And also, probably have to deal with a very angry cat. Another cat-based idiom is "cat got your tongue," and that usually means that you're at a loss for words. This dates as far back as ancient Egypt, when the tongues of liars and cheaters were cut off and fed to cats. Sweet, sweet revenge for being stuffed in a bag. Picture this. You're in England and you're betting on the horse races. You want a pretty good idea on which horse will win so your bets will pay off, and so you've talked to jockeys and stable hands and even horse trainers to figure out which horse will give you the best odds of winning. But there's one source that beats you all. The horse itself. When you hear something straight from the horse's mouth, you hear it from the best and most credible source. In boxing, we get the phrase "up to scratch," which means to be acceptable. In the early days, refs would scratch a line in the arena, and opponents would walk up to it every round to show that they were ready to fight. If they couldn't, they weren't up to scratch, and they lost the fight. The origins behind the phrase "stole my thunder" didn't come from spamming Thor, the god of thunder, as much as it came from ripping off John Denis, inventor of a machine that could recreate the sound of thunder, which he used for a play in 1704. However, his rivals copied the design of his machine, and so he went around loudly protesting that people had stolen his thunder, which means to steal someone's idea. Thank you so much for watching Language Lounge. This episode wouldn't have been possible without the help of my family, Dr. Kuinard from my public speaking class, and John Green from the hit web series Mental Floss. Information for this episode was provided by Michelle Fralla from The Intrepid Guide and Yen Kabang from TCK Publishing. I don't mean to butter myself up, but I gave the whole 9 yards for this speech, and I hope it's up to scratch. Please give me a good grade, and thank you so much for watching.